Book 101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She's a business transformation expert, strategic growth coach, crisis catalyst creator, keynote speaker, founder of Guide to Greatness, and of course, an author too, do no other than Dr. Cyndi Laurin.
Thank you. Pleased to be with you today.
Welcome to Book 101, Dr. Cyndi. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yeah. Yeah, I started my career off as a professor at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo in the industrial technology department. And about 10 years into it, I had heard about the Pike Place Fish Market in Seattle, where they throw the fish, and it's people come from all over the world to see them. And so I called them to see what their story was, like what made them so famous. And after about 45 minutes of talking to one of the fishmongers, I said, wow, you've such a powerful story, because they were talking about intention and integrity, being committed to each other's success. And I said, why haven't you told the story yet? And he said, no one's going to want to hear the story. And I said, well, I think there's an audience for it, and I would love to tell it. And so he was like, okay. And so I ended up spending a year working alongside the fishmongers at the market, and
Yes.
really learning from an immersive standpoint what was the undercurrent that caused them to have such fun, and why they threw the fish, and why people literally flew in from all over the world to see them in action. And it was a great process for me, the highlight of my professional career for sure. And Catch came out. It's filled with stories from all of the fishmongers that are there, and it's really about both personal growth and transformation, and really owning your life, owning your thoughts, your actions, your results. And came out of the gate and won the IPPY award in 2004, and it sold over 100,000 copies and is in 14 languages. And it gave me the bug to write more. It was a really great
Yes.
process.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Dr. Cyndi, congratulations and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world.
Thanks.
And today, let's talk about your writing process. What does your typical writing routine look like when working on a book?
Yeah. So the first two books, Catch and the Rudolph Factor, as I mentioned, I immersed myself into the culture, um, talked to all of the different employees that I could, interviewed, collected data, and really just became a part of the business itself. Because I believe that it's really easy to look at a company and say, wow, look, they're so successful, and I'm going to write and tell you what I see. But that doesn't necessarily reveal that the values, the beliefs, the attitudes, understandings, all those things under the current that cause those things that we see. And so that's generally how it starts. And then both of the first two books are filled with stories from the actual workers themselves, which gives it such a great relatability for the reader. And then the Be a Frontline Hero, my third book, I took a different approach. It is Babel based. It's about a girl named Emily who works at a pizza shop, and she gets promoted into a manager role. And she doesn't know what she's doing. She's overwhelmed, and she decides to quit. And then a consultant comes into town for a conference and gives her these 5 great tools, and the business and Emily change. So that one was a little more difficult because I had to actually develop characters and walk through it in my mind about what it all looks like. But honestly, it's kind of funny. That book took me 8 hours to write because I thought about it so long in my head, like how it would transpire, and if I was Emily and I was working in a pizza shop, what might I experience? So
Yes.
I literally sat down one day, wrote the whole book, except for the conclusion, because that's always that's the hardest part for me, is like, what do I want the reader to be thinking, feeling, doing when they close this book? What's the value they're going to get from it? And so the next morning, I read Be a Frontline Hero from start to finish, and then the conclusion was clear. Like, and then I wrote the conclusion for it. So my writing process itself is really focused on the reader. It's what do I want the reader to glean from reading my work, um, and then I go from there. I sort of reverse engineer it and make sure that I fulfill, my promise to readers. So that's sort of the process in a nutshell. My last book. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Miss.
I
Go
was going to
ahead.
say the one that I'm working on right now. It's finished, and I just started pitching to publishers. It's the Orchestrated Randomness: How to Create Your Own Luck in Business and Life. This one is a little bit different as well. It's really a culmination of my 30 years of working with leaders and organizations from startup to Fortune 500. And I created just from experimenting and testing and refining some theories. Um, it's a literal blueprint, predictable pathway for businesses to grow from startup all the way through the sixth stage of maturity that I created. So all of them are a little bit unique. Catch and Rudolph Factor, very story based from real people. Be a Frontline Hero is story based about Emily, a pretend person. And then the last one, Orchestrated Randomness, is really also filled with stories. I just got a story from my client in Australia last night. We put our heads together and I said, I want to show off the great work that you guys are doing. So we built a story last night to go into Orchestrated Randomness. So to me, it's all about the reader.
Yes, indeed. So, Dr. Cindy, what's your process for developing book ideas into full manuscripts?
Yep. So I start with the conclusion, and then I create the introduction. And so I make sure that there's a really strong thread between the two and what the reader's going to get out of the story. And then I build a framework, a series, what the chapters are going to be like to get us from point A to point B. And then I just kind of start I call it putting meat on the ribs. So I start filling it with the content that's going to drive the results I'm looking for the reader in the end. And then stories are a really important part of all of my work. I think it makes the work relatable. And then in the last book, I started using AI. That's a new process for me to help clarify my thinking about some of the concepts. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward. I do coach a lot of authors on their books, and we follow that same process. What is the purpose? What's the need? Let's start with that conclusion, create your introduction, and then build out the bones and the framework that's going to get us there.
How do you balance research with the actual writing time, Dr.
That's a
Cindy?
That's a great question. I'm a deep thinker. I call myself a modern day philosopher. I think very deeply about the work, and unfortunately, I'm not able to write on demand. Like, oh, I have 2 hours. Let's sit down and write. It's sort of when I'm inspired to write. So oftentimes I realize that about myself, and so I find time in doing things that cause me to be inspired. It might sound silly, but working in my garden, riding my horse, when I'm in nature, I can think deeply and clearly about the concepts I'm trying to convey. And then I schedule time to come in and to lay it all out into my framework. I think also one of the things that I've learned along the way is, and this is common sense for a lot of people, but the first version is never the last version. But you have to go through the process of getting everything out of your head, knowing that you're going to refine and iterate and refine and change the structure. And that's okay to do that. Sometimes I've worked with authors who get really married to the initial concept of their book and struggle to restructure it when the need is to help it flow better from restructuring. So I practice what I preach and kind of take it apart and put it back together again a few times before it actually feels right.
What tools or software do you find most helpful for writing, Dr.
Uh,
Cindy?
yeah, I just use Word actually. I mean, I just make a Google Doc and I use the frameworks, the headings and make it very organized that way so I can move things around. I have just started, not just started using AI, but I started using AI with the fourth book as a tool to just ensure that I'm not too academic, or I'm not repeating myself on a concept that I'm actually trying to create in my mind, and so it can help me gain clarity a little bit faster. But that's pretty much it. I don't use a lot of different tools to help me get there. It's just the time I spend thinking about the concepts is where I think the gold is.
Hmm. Yes, indeed. And what was the most difficult part of writing your book, and how did you overcome it?
I think the most difficult part is not getting too close to it. Because if you get too close to it, you lose sight of the value that the reader's going to get from it. So that was one thing that I struggled with Catch. I reiterated that book, restructured it, I think 11 different times. I just couldn't quite get it to flow the way I wanted it to flow. And so what I did, my solution for it was to create my ideal reader for Catch It was Gus, the lonely bus driver. I don't know why, it was what came to my mind. But I thought if I could write Catch in a way that this person, Gus, could read it and understand it, then mission accomplished. And creating an avatar for who my reader is has been really helpful in ensuring I'm not writing for me, that I'm writing for the appropriate audience. And it doesn't always come right out of the gate, like who is that avatar that I'm writing for. Sometimes I have to think about it. Sometimes it's a few different types of avatars, but I try to keep it as close as possible and have a good description, like who they are, what they do, what are their habits, what do they enjoy doing, and really kind of play out that character building of who my reader is, so I can ensure that I'm writing to that, to the quality that that person's looking for.
So, how do you handle self doubt during the writing process?
I don't really face the doubt during the writing process, because I think the creative side of writing is the most rewarding and fun part of the process. I think the doubt comes when I have to share it with somebody to get feedback. Is it really as good as I think it is? And like, no. So I've learned along the way. That's one of the things. And then also getting people to really give me honest, critical feedback. I have found that to be really challenging. And so usually when I'm asking for people to review my work, I'll say, listen, tear it apart, bloody it up, whatever you have to do. It's for the reader, not me. It won't hurt my feelings. Give it to me straight. I really want this work to be great. And sometimes giving them permission to really tear it apart that's been really helpful as I've evolved over the years, because I wrote Catch 20 years ago. I was a completely different thinker and writer back then, than I am now. So it was a little harder for me to accept that the feedback in the early days. But now I just realize it's all about the reader. So I can't let my ego get in the way of it.
So, how do you deal with the criticism or negative feedback during the writing process?
I welcome it. I really welcome it. Like I said, in the early days, it was a little hard. It would, like, oh gosh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I'm a horrible author. But as I've matured and as the books have gone out and I've gotten really good feedback from them, I've learned that any negative feedback is amazing. It's a lot easier for people to say, oh, it's great, and then it's not great, and then you're like, oh, now what? So now when I get negative feedback, I don't always make every accommodation or change that a reviewer has given me, but it gives me time to pause, think through it, look at their perspective of it, and then say, yeah, actually that's really awesome feedback, or no, my angle is really this, so I need to shift my perspective in the writing itself so that I can speak more clearly to what what I'm trying to say. But I love negative feedback. I know it sounds probably a little bit strange, but that's the only way the book's going to be great, is if people can be really honest and say, this part doesn't work for me. This is all great, and then I don't understand this. I love that. It's so helpful.
Helpful indeed. And Dr. Cindy,
Mhm.
as a transformation expert, strategic growth coach, and many more. What are your short-term and long-term goals?
My short-term goal is to one, find a great publisher for orchestrated randomness. I just started pitching it, and really what I want to see, my longer term goal is that business growth and personal growth are far less complicated than we make it. And I'm hoping that orchestrated randomness will empower or enable people to really drive their life, like to really get the most out of it. Life is short. We got to get our money's worth. And if we're, complaining about other things, other people causing this or that in our life, we're not really owning our life. So my hope is that my work causes people to really own their thoughts, their feelings, and the results that they get from their life.
Yes, life is too short, people. Seize your day
Yes.
and good luck to your goals, Miss Cindy, and
Thank you.
hoping for more and more success.
Thank you.
And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
Hmm. Um, Go for it. Don't wait.
Just
Get
do it.
started. Yeah, just do it. I mean, honestly, what drives me is not anything that is special. I observe, I get curious, and I take action. And anybody can do that. There's nothing holding you back from observing things, getting curious about things, and acting on it. Sometimes I think that we have this fear of failure, but I actually don't think that's real. I think failure, especially when it comes to writing a book, if you fail, it just nothing changes in your life. You didn't get the work out. So, change it, manipulate it, and try again. Get it out there. If you're compelled to write, there's lots and lots of avenues to get your work out into the public these days. I've gone all three routes: independent publisher, big house, John Wiley, and then I self-published, Be a Frontline Hero. All three are great. They all serve different purposes. But there isn't any reason why people can't get out there and write a book. Just start with something that they think is going to create value in the world. I guess that would be probably my second suggestion.
Thank you for that advice, Dr. Cindy. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, there's a couple of books that have influenced me. One, so as it relates to organizations and leadership, one that I had read a long time ago was or was from Gareth Morgan, and it was Images of Organization. And that book really struck me profoundly because it showed me different ways to look at organizational life. They're not all the same, and it caused me to become more introspective and less prescriptive when I work with clients. So that book was huge for me. And then personally, a book that I read called It's All Your Fault about dealing with high conflict personalities. That has been an amazing book as well. It's really helped me identify and work with people that are kind of high conflict personalities and not take on that energy, to recognize how to manage it, but not engage in it, if that makes sense.
Makes sense, Dr. Cindy. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in its third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcasts. Dr. Cindy, how do you know when a manuscript is truly finished?
I think you have to just make that decision. Like, this is it. This is as good as it's going to get. Because I can keep refining, and refining for years and years. But at some point, I have to call it and say, it's time. It's ready. It's as good as it's going to be. I've given it to reviewers. I've taken the feedback, and now it's next steps.
Yes, this is it. I need to publish. What's your approach to structuring and outlining a book?
Usually with this structure, I base it upon needs that I'm seeing out in the workplace or in industry, and structuring it around how can I create value. And I define creating value as solving a problem or fulfilling a need. So the structure of the book, the language in the book, the outline, everything is supporting that value creation that the reader is going to get from taking time to read the book.
Yes. So, how do you develop a compelling characters or concepts
Mhm.
for nonfiction?
For me, I have to put myself into those characters. I have to sort of pretend like with be a frontline hero. I had to be Emily. I had to put myself in that position of, what is it like? Go to the pizza shop, watch the manager hustle around, and listen to what they're saying. It's almost an ethnographic approach where you're really immersing yourself into that character and thinking about how do they relate to each other. At what point do you have to enter a new character? It takes a lot of time to really live it. Before, for me, I had to sort of live it before I wrote it, and that caused it to be a quick write, but lengthy thinking about it.
Yes, live it. And Dr. Cindy, how much should authors focus on platform building before publishing?
It's a great question. A lot. A lot, yeah.
Yes.
When I work with authors, it's always so hard to help them understand, how important their platform is and marketing. And I'm even learning in pitching orchestrated randomness, the numbers, the requirement for followership, for your contact list, and where you're showing up in conferences and so forth. It's so competitive, even more competitive now than just a few years ago when Frontline Hero came out. And the last 2 years are very, very important. Um, Although I know it is there is a pay per play environment, which is really frustrating for someone like me who likes it to be organic. Um, but but there are a lot of people who can pay $50,000 and get a bestseller on USA Today or Wall Street Journal, and that to me is frustrating because it it circumvents what organic growth and sales and success look like. So the system can be gamed. I don't recommend that. I think there's a lot of pride in doing things the right way and putting out a message in a book that really creates value in the world. But that platform is as important, if not more important, than the content itself.
Dr. Cindy Laurin, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your books, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Thank you. Yeah, if they could go to cindylaurin.com and check out my books, that would be great.
Yes, people, let's support Dr. Cindy Laurin because if you support her, for sure, more and more and more empowering books to come, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Dr. Cindy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
More to come, people. See you soon.